Greetings! I thought I'd tell you an interesting tale of what's happened to me, well, last night actually. It's been on my mind for a while, and I know that there's two types of people out there, people who are completely closed-minded and people who are open-minded. Yesterday I was in the field watching a beautiful, I don't know if it was a falcon or a hawk because it was too far away, but it was hovering above, obviously looking for something to eat, and then it kept landing on the trees, and I was very privileged to be able to see this beautiful bird, and I was trying to connect with it. And I see it quite often over the years, but obviously because it's so snowy here, it was just standing out. Typically I didn't have my camera, but I think if I'd had my camera it would not have hung around so much or let me walk by it and watch it. So I was standing there watching this hawk that was sitting on top of a tree, and it was watching me, which was great. And I was quite oblivious to the fact that this lady had come into the field with her dog, a lady I know. I'm not going to mention her name, she doesn't watch my channel, so it doesn't matter that I'm telling you the story. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And the hawk flew off, and I said, "Oh, I'm watching that beautiful bird of prey." And she was like, "Whatever, you know, that's a bit weird." And then I can't remember how that came up about it being a bit weird that I was looking at the bird. But then she turned around and went, "But you are weird, aren't you?" And I went, "What do you mean by that?" She went, "Well, you're just into weird things." And I went, "Well, what have you heard?" I don't know much about you. She went, "Well," she got all a bit embarrassed and things, just seemed, "Well, you just seem a bit different. You like different things." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And we were walking around the field, and she was kind of interested into what I was into. And I was saying to her that night, last night, I would be going to a meeting, and she was going, "What, you're going out in the snow?" I'm like, "Well, it's not snowing now, it's just a bit icy out, and it's only down the road." And she's like, "What do you do?" And I went, "Well, we sit and talk and we discuss things like, I don't know, angels and God and stuff like that." And she sort of sneered a bit, but at the same time wanted to know more. And the end of the conversation ended up being I invited her to the meeting that night, which I realised she was just being a nosy old girl, bless her. And as I said, she's quite close-minded. So she came to the meeting, and that night the meeting was about sending masses to the dead, about people that have passed over the threshold or gone to the other side, you know, moved on. What I'm saying, popped their clogs, died. And she was a bit like, weird, but she wanted to come along. And there's only about 6 or 7 of us normally, but last night was all the ladies. It's weird, we want men to join this little group, but there's no men around that seem interested in it, but it is open for men as well. But at the moment it's mainly ladies, and we did our usual meeting of picking an oracle card, and the lady was a bit uncertain about that, but at the same time she wanted to have one, and she was really delighted to get an angel. I was like, "Oh, angels are watching over you," and she didn't say anything. And one of the other ladies, as part of the group, said, "What do you get from this card?" And she just sort of shrugged her shoulders and didn't want to say much. So we don't push anyone, you don't have to. But they're all very welcoming there, and they were welcoming this lady in. I keep nearly going to say her name. And then we did like prayers, lit a candle and said prayers to the dead. And we were asking her, well, everybody first off, after we did our little prayers, were saying about experiences they've had of, perhaps feeling someone who's passed over near them. I'm sure you've had experiences like that, or suddenly their song would come on the radio, or they'd smell perhaps their perfume or something odd would happen that made you feel like that dead person was nearby. So we were discussing incidences like that, and one of the ladies asked the lady I'd invited along, what do you think happens? Because she was being quite quiet through it all. Bless her, she had lost her husband many years ago, and she just said, quite matter-of-factly, "Once you're dead, you're dead." I was like, "Okay, that's fine, you can have your opinion. That's all right, we've welcomed you into our little group. You're still allowed to say what you think. We're not here to proselytise or say what you should think or believe in. But it made some of the ladies feel they wanted to talk to her more, perhaps, you know, realised she was quite lonely. And she sort of, you know, when we were having our teas and coffees, was a bit more chatty, but wasn't giving too much away. But then, it's an awful thing to say, it sounds like she's had a very boring life, a very, what I call Joe Bloggs life. You know, went to school, went to work, got married, had kids, gave up work, raised the children. But no spiritual development, no interest in that kind of thing. You know, we were trying to say, oh, what do you do with yourself? And, you know, it sounds like she just sits around at home watching TV, feeling quite lonely. Though she did start telling us she had friends, but it sounds like it's just people she meets at, you know, at the bus stop or whatever. And we were trying to encourage her to join local groups, and she was like, what, groups like this? And we're like, no, you know, there's community groups or the WI or something, you know, go and meet people. Anyway, it was all a bit strange, and I know I shouldn't have taken her there, but at the same time it seemed like, I felt at the time, the Spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, was saying, invite her along, let her try and be a bit more open-minded. And I'm sure she'll go off to all the neighbours moaning about me and what we were doing. Because she knew some of the other ladies there by sight, didn't really know who they were. So I took her home afterwards, and she was saying, oh, this is all, what I would call woo-woo was what she was trying to say. But she was saying this is all madness and there's no such thing. And it's fine, she wants to keep to her little closed, narrow-minded way. Don't mind that. But I felt that if it was back in medieval days, she'd be off to the Inquisition, getting us all, telling on us all and having us all burnt at the stake would have made her feel much happier. You know, and rather than being, you know, kind and considerate about what other people believe in, she was adamant that we were all crazy people. And I've come up against this a lot throughout my life, but definitely in the last few years it's got a lot worse. And then it's also come out of the woodwork, shall we say, of the last few years, that people I thought that were perhaps more open-minded are absolutely closed-minded. And what I'm concerned about is that these people get quite nasty about people like us that are seeing the bigger picture, or seeing that there's other things going on in this realm than just black and white, let's say. And I get quite concerned that these kind of people become so nasty about it and start name calling and saying that we're all nuts or whatever, or that it's all woo-woo. That's fine, but people should be allowed to be free to believe in what they want to believe in, as long as it's not harming anybody else. Because this meeting didn't harm her in any way, and her knowing about us shouldn't harm her in any way. But maybe it rattles against her non-beliefs, I should say, her orthodox way, because people don't want their boat rocked. They don't want to have to think outside their little box, and it makes it very difficult for them to comprehend how people like us are out there. You know, people like us seem to, I think, survive in a more free and lively way. We have a life because we have a belief in things, and we know there's more to life than just the everyday, let's say. I feel like she's stuck in winter, where we're all going out into the summer. We carry the sun with us everywhere, where she's just in her dark, wintry, black and white, led by the papers and the news and the programmes that are on TV, and doesn't see anything more to it. You know, I would normally say very rational, but this lady, bless her, probably doesn't think much out of the box at all. You know, I've met very intellectual people that don't believe in anything other than facts, an academic style of way of thinking. So I'm not sure what one does with people that don't want their boat rocked, but then turn nasty about people that are into something different. And I know we're supposed to just send them love, pray for them, not let their vibrations affect us. But it is kind of worrying that there's so many of them out there that want to ridicule us. Well, we wouldn't ridicule them for being so straight-laced, narrow-minded. We just accept that that's what they're like, and we try and show them other ways of thinking. But they don't want to think like that. They want to stay in the mainstream. So I want to thank you for listening. Sorry, I just sort of put this out there because I'm sure many of you are coming up against things like that. Remember, there's many streams, and as Gurdjieff would say, the two streams. Let's make sure we're in the stream that's flowing and not the one that's staying stagnant and not going anywhere. So thanks for listening, and stay in the sunshine.